In today's video, we're going to show you exactly how to rebuild the forks on your Harley-Davidson motorcycle to include replacing the fork seals. Welcome back, Bikeaholics. Ryan Urlacher here, lawabidingbiker.com. I always thank you. That's right, you, for checking back in. And Hardy says you should do this maintenance every 50,000 miles, but of course, if you see a leak, you should do it right away. So before we get started, there's some things you should know. We're gonna show you how to check the fork oil level, but you should reference a service manual to check for your specific year and model. And there's really only one specialty tool you need for this project. I will put a link in the description below, along with the actual fork rebuild kit that we used. Oh, and you'll need about 3 quarts of fork oil. And if you need to know how to remove the forks from your batwing or shark nose fairing, we have a video for that, link in the description below. And the footage for this video was actually taken out of our very detailed OHLINS and progressive front suspension install videos, and I'll link to both of those in the description below. And if you haven't already, make sure you check out the Law Abiding Biker podcast, where we talk about things like this in a lot more detail, and we have a lot of fun doing it. You can listen on any major podcast platform. Also link to it in the description below. And with that said, what do you say we get wrenching, huh? But before we do, make sure you hit that subscribe button and bell icon. Every time those are hit, another biker joins the revolution, and we'd love to have you be part of it. All right, so now we're at a point where we're gonna remove the fork cap bolt. In this particular 14 Street Glide Special, it's actually a hex head, and it's a 19 millimeter, which we have. On some of your other bikes, it'll actually be a fork cap nut head, and you can use a crescent wrench or an appropriate size wrench or a fork cap wrench itself. At any rate, we're gonna, remember this is under extreme pressure, so all we're doing right now is just breaking it. So I'm gonna hold this the best I can. Definitely helps to have 2 hands here. He's putting his 19 millimeter in there. All right, and he's getting it broke, and that's good right there. Just a couple threads. All right, so this is just a piece of metal. It's actually a part from a fork, vise fork clamp to work on forks, but use whatever you have. But basically the easiest way to do this, again, under high pressure, because it's under a load of a spring. So you want to obviously be safe about it. Don't get it in the face. So when he's doing this, he's going to have his face backed off, but he's going to be basically holding the fork cap bolt, and I'm going to turn the fork underneath him. And so he's going to put pressure down there. And so I'm actually just turning the fork clockwise. That's allowing the bolt to come out there. And I see it coming, and he's just going to keep holding pressure down on it. And you see we released it, and you can easily let all that pressure, but that's how much pressure is on there. You've got your spacer, of course, your cap, and then the spring down there. All right, and so now we've got the fork cap bolt off, and he's going to set that aside. He's going to remove the stock spacer there. He's just got a tub because there's oil in here, of course. He's going to reach in and remove the stock spring there. And any tools we talk about in this video, like the fork clamp vise tool, we'll link to it in the description below. No additional cost to you, but if you click through any of those links and make a purchase, we do get a small commission. Helps keep the lights on here at the channel. And now he can go ahead and turn that over, and he's going to dump the oil out into our oil pan there. All right, so for this bike, it's a 14 Street Glide Special. It's got a 12 millimeter hex head, and you can see you need a long one to get up in there. Some of the older bikes pre-2014 were 6 millimeter, but he's going to go ahead and back this out. He already broke it, but he's going to back it out the rest of the way. You can turn the fork up, and he's got it in his hand there. So now that that bottom bolt is out, we can go ahead and he's going to turn it over there and get the rest of the components out. He is going to save that top out spring there, though, because we will reuse that. All right, so inside here, where the top fork tube meets the lower portion, there's a retaining ring in there. And the easiest way to take those out is just get a screwdriver in there and pry up. And we've got new ones of these with our rebuild kit. He's just working his way around, and we got that popped. So this is our Jim's Vise fork clamp tool. Makes it super easy to work on your forks. And I will link to this tool in the description below. You can see he's just tightening it down there. All right, now that that's clamped down, he's going to go ahead and remove the lower from the upper, and it just takes a little bit of force there. There we go. As you can see, it came apart there. So this came out of the very bottom of the fork when we took it apart, and You can see it's got some machine lines on it there, but you'll want to retain this because we will be reusing it. All right, so now the fork tube is in the clamp there. We're ready to remove all the hardware, and we will be removing it off the bottom of the fork tube here. And so now he can just take that metal band and slide it off the end there. So underneath that is another metal band, and it's got a slit in it too. This one won't slide right off, so you have to pry it apart with a screwdriver to get it to clear over the lip there. And then of course his next washer there, ring, comes off, and then the rubber ring comes off. All right, so in our rebuild kit, of course, comes a new rubber ring. He's putting just a little fork oil on it, lubing it up, and there are letters on one side of that. Make sure the letter side goes up, and he can slide that over. And next he'll go on with his just regular metal ring there. All right, now he'll go on with that first split ring there. Spread it apart, work it into place there. There is a channel for it. And last he'll go over with that last split ring, and it just slides right over the top of the other one there. And then he can slide everything together. And we now have new fork seals. All right, just real quick and we'll get right back into your video. As you can imagine, a lot of man-hour, expenses, and effort go into keeping this channel going strong. Of course, there's a way you can support us by becoming a patron member. I will link to it in the description below. There are benefits for becoming a member, such as t-shirts and stickers. You get access to the private Facebook group, which is a troll-free zone, nothing but bikers helping bikers. You get access to live video broadcasts and chat, podcasts early, premium videos, and of course, access to those ride, meetup, and events. We appreciate you considering becoming a member. All right, let's get back into your video. Okay, so because we took the forks apart to do fork seals, if you didn't take your forks apart, you won't necessarily have to worry about this. It won't come out, but it did come out for us. This is your fork stock one, and we're gonna reuse it. And you see how it's open on one end, or one end is bigger than the other. That goes to the upside. And if you look down in that fork, there's actually a channel down in there, and that's where we want to get it into. So he's going to go ahead and drop that in, and he's looking down in there to make sure and wiggle it into place so it sits flush in that channel and cut out in there. All right, and now with the upper tube, he can go ahead and put it into the lower there. And of course, we've got our new hardware and our new fork seal, and he'll slide that into place and push the rubber ring down into the channel there. All right, so this is a fork seal driver kit that we use, and I'll link to it in the description below if you want to pick one up. It's nice because it has all different size inserts in there for different size forks. He's pulling out the 49 to 50 millimeter for us, plastic inserts, because on these 2014 is a 49 millimeter forks. It's got the actual driver there, and you'll see how he puts this together. It's just got tabs on it. You just line them up. There's a channel in there. Pretty simple. And then he'll do the same with the other side. And then he actually slides those around the upper tube there. And there's nipples and a hole, and he lines that up. And now his fork seal driver is in place. And he can drive this seal down in there. And this assures that it gets down in there nice and level and flush. All right, so we've got that fork seal back in place there. We're going to go back. This also came in our rebuild kit, but you can reuse your stock one there. But this is a spring clip there. And on that fork seal, when you're driving it down there, you want to drive it down far enough. It will bottom out eventually, but you want to drive it down far enough so it is below that channel, because that snap ring goes into the channel. So obviously you need to get it lower than that so it exposes it, allowing you to get that snap ring into place. Next, you can put the top out spring in the fork tube, followed by the damper rod. All right, so in his hand, he's got the fork damper bolt. He's going to put a little blue Loctite on it. You'll probably be reusing yours, but if you do a fork rebuild and seals like we did, it came with a new bolt and crush washer. He's taking his 19 millimeter hex head there, and he's going to get it up in there and start getting it threaded in. So to get that fork damper bolt started, it just wants to spin the inside. So it definitely helps to have a second set of hands, and you can actually pull out on the upper tube all the way out. And that kind of sets it a bit so that you can get that bolt started and get everything sucked together. And this part helps to have a second set of hands too, or you can put it in the fork clamp, of course. But 30 to 37 foot-pounds, we're going to torque this damper bolt down. All right, so next we need to put oil in the fork. And basically we want, for my weight, we want 140 millimeters of air gap space. Now the air gap space is what will be between the top of your oil and the fork cap bolt or nut. On my Harley Street Glide Special, the stock front forks take about 24 ounces of fork oil, and they call for 95 millimeters of air gap space. please check for the exact specifications of your year and model. And so all we've done is taken a rod we had sitting around the shop. You can use anything, a dowel rod, whatever. And we've marked out with a mark 140 millimeters. And so we can use that rod. And while I'm holding the fork for lurch, you want the top tube in the down position. It's just resting on the lift. And with it in the down position, I will hold the rod in there and he will be filling to try to get it to the bottom of the rod there. And now he's just gonna work that upper tube nice and slow, about 10 times up and down. And you can hear it. And we're just working the fluid down into there and we're getting rid of the air. So 10 times on that upper tube. And once that's done, we can check our oil level. All right, so we topped it back off to the 140 millimeters air gap space, and he's gonna go ahead and do some pumping again just to make sure all the air is out of this thing. And you'll be able to hear it when you have all the air out because it'll stop making sounds and bubbling as you go up and down. All right, so now that we have no air and we can hear nothing, we're gonna go ahead a final time and we're gonna top it off and measure it to that 140 millimeters and we'll be good to go. Next, you can put your main spring back in, followed by the spacer. From there, you can replace the fork cap bolt in the same manner as we showed you to take it off. All right, your journey's not done on the channel. I'm popping a couple videos on the screen here for you. Hopefully something useful or entertaining. Heck, maybe both. At any rate, when you're done watching videos, make sure you get out there and ride every chance you get, Bikeaholics. Peace.